So that's a word. What I think what you're asking, and it's a good question. Number one, I think sometimes when we find ourselves as the doer, the fixer, all of those things, it's control.
Mm.
And I think it's the lack of trust.
Mhm.
Can this person actually show up for how I need them to be, how I need them to be, right? In a lot of my relationships or, as I built relationships with men, a lot of times it's like, I don't need you. I want you. I want you, but I don't need you. And I think that's okay. I don't think it's the old adage of like, I don't need a man. Like, no, it's not that. I think there's some beauty in saying, I'm here because I want to be here, because I want to be with you, compared to like, I need you in my life. But I also think there's something in what you're saying of like, when you're in that control space, do you even allow them to show up in the way that you would want them to?
Mhm.
Sometimes I think it's fear of, if I just take my hands off of it, kind of like a project, right?
Yes.
So I take my hand off of this, is it going to become a burning dumpster fire? Right?
Yeah.
But we don't know because we don't take our hands off of it. So I think what you're saying is like, it's definitely a key, because it takes giving up control.
Yeah.
And it takes putting your ego on the back burner to say, like, I'm the one who's going to fix this. I'm the one who's going to figure this out. Like, just get in the car, get in the passenger seat, and I'm going to drive us there, right? So I think that I myself could do better with relinquishing control, but I also think we have to do really good at understanding who that person is, and are these people that we're dating, or is the person that we're dating in the future, like, are they the right partner for us? Because can we relinquish that control? And if we feel like we can't, then we have to be honest with ourselves of saying, maybe this isn't where I'm supposed to be. I would love to hear you answer the question. I'm just going to say, like, one of my friends actually, you talk about relationships with your friends. And she said to me, this is just men in general, but knowing how I show up, she was like, Amber, for the rest of your life, do you want to be on 10? Do you want to be on 10, or do you want to be able to have a partner that you can trust, that is going to provide and take care and do all these things, and not even just financially, right? Like with the emotional capabilities that you need. And so that juxtaposed with your question, I'm like, that's some soul searching that I think us ambitious women have to do, because it is about control in a lot of it. And I think we also find people that we feel like we can mold. And that's also a thing where, I want a partnership, and I don't mind if you're not 100% there, but I think that we feel like we can get you over the hump.
Yeah. That people pleasing comes back. There you go.
Just people pleasing. So like, tell me in closing, when you think about the intersectionality of relationships and purpose, what is the wish? What is the hope? I'm not even going to say the goal. Like, what is the wish and hope for your future as you look at this next part of your life, going into your 30s, being a boss, like I say, like, you've come so far, but this is your second phase, right? And it's an important, like, your 30s to me, I loved my 30s. I think you become more comfortable in who you are as a woman. You can only continue to level up, and I think also when it comes to relationships, I think in your 20s, it's kind of like, I'm figuring it out. In your 30s, you're like, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what I know. And you don't have to be staunch in it. But I do think that this is the next phase of figuring out who you are, what you want, and taking yourself to the next level. So what do you perceive for yourself?
I would boil that answer down into like, it's something I wanted to feel anything that I'm doing. Work, life, love, health. Like I don't want to have a spirit of lack anymore.
Mm.
And I don't want to lead with that as the driver, like a spirit of lack of this is what I haven't accomplished yet, but I'm not married yet, but I don't have children yet. I haven't bought a home yet. That is honestly like the spirit of comparison and lack is just, I feel really daunting for someone who is now, exiting my 20s. And what I would like and hope for moving forward in this, I do want balance, but I want balance in a way that feels natural and so sustainable, like breathing. Like I want to be able to pursue to pursue the right career decisions.
Mhm.
Um, but I want those decisions to come like, of course it might be, you could do this or that, but when I say, okay, but I want this, I want it to feel that decision as easy as breathing. And when it comes to love, and I'm saying, well, is this the right partner for me? Are we focusing on the right priorities to elevate ourselves, push ourselves in this relationship? I want those decisions and how I feel about them to feel as easy as breathing. And that's, to me, like a lot of the stress and the pressure that I put on myself here will always underlie in my 30s. But I
Mhm.
just want to be sure of Jessica for once. Every decision, that I'm making, I want to be sure of myself. I want to bet on me.
I love that. And you know what? I always say, if I'm gonna bet on anybody, I'm gonna bet on myself because I know I'm never gonna lose.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
that's how I see you. I think that you are a phenomenal woman. I think that you are a powerhouse. I think that, we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, the gyms, and you're like, "Oh, maybe I have some," but I think this whole conversation has been so authentic and raw, and it's a hard conversation to have, especially as women that you want your both and I think it's possible, but I think it's about what do you wanna prioritize at the time? But what
mhm,
I love about what you said is decisions should be as easy as breathing because, I'm in my final years of my 30s, and, um, I find decisions are easier, but I don't find them to be as easy as breathing.
mhm, mhm.
And that kinda takes me back to let me do some self-awareness, like what is keeping me from feeling like decisions aren't as easy as they should be, and that might go back to what we were talking about before, not knowing how to just say no,
Yeah.
because if you say no to certain things, then you have the capacity to be able to understand what decisions you need to make. So that's a lesson for me, and I appreciate you sharing that. For our besties that are on the phone, as they're looking into their future and understanding the intersectionality of relationships and purpose, what actionable next step, like just one actionable next step, would you want to see them do for themselves?
Regarding intersectionality of
Yeah, of relationships with
purpose,
purpose.
I would, as a first next step, and this is the easiest thing you can do because it doesn't necessarily require like an outcome. It just
Mhm,
requires you to be in discovery, in audit. So I want everyone to think about every relationship that they have in their lives, whether it's friends, families, romantic partners. Um, I would love if you could think about each of those relationships and think about, okay, how do I honor myself by maintaining this relationship? How is this relationship serving me on one hand?
mhm,
And then the other side, as you conduct this audit for each person, is how much am I giving to get those things?
mm,
Doing that audit, I think if you're truly you're kind of formulating, you might be there yet, you know your purpose, you know who you are, you know what you want, which I think all tie into purpose, right? Like, you know yourself, you know your goals, you know why you're placed here on this earth. I would take a look at those relationships with that idea of that purpose of who you are, what you want. And I would say, which column looks longer? Is it that you're giving more than how that relationship is serving you or giving back to you? And I would say in that audit, that's your time. And it might just be a moment, you know, it's not cut the ties with that person necessarily. It might just mean, okay, what are my next steps after that? Do I maintain this relationship? Should I be more vocal in saying some things about this relationship should change? I still want you around. Or do you give more? Do you find that, hey, I want to give more? So I think that internal audit, taking a step back, lay of the land, thinking about relationships, remembering your purpose, and saying to yourself, well, how can I make sure that these relationships, whether they stay or they go, are going to propel me to be further closer to my purpose?
I think there you have it. There you have it. I mean, I was writing this down feverishly. So I am going to do my own internal audit and hold myself accountable to that gem that you just dropped. So, you know, those that are listening are ambitious besties. What we know is, you know, there's no perfect balance in everything. And what Jessika is saying is understand where you are in your relationship, where maybe you can better the relationship or pull back, but you have to honor yourself. And that's what I love. That's my takeaway. The intersectionality of relationship and purpose comes back to honoring yourself. So I thank you. I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Here with us today. I cannot wait for our next conversation because I feel like we could go forever on this. And this was just wonderful. I'm excited to see you in your future and where you go, and us holding each other accountable, because that's where we are at the end of the day. You need that tribe of amazing, ambitious women, guys, to hold you accountable. And I'm just blessed to be able to say I have Jessika Banks in mine. So I appreciate you and I honor our friendship. And I thank you for it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amber.
Thank
And
you.
besties, it was such a fun time. And absolutely, I will be here again. We're going to talk a lot about more later.
More to come. Stay tuned.